alone, yet not apart. It is in isolation where we find unity, a commonality bred in an uncommon time. One story, many chapters, each changing, evolving, as each of us learns the value of what we miss. Little things, seemingly insignificant things, big things, and things that remain immeasurable.
This is Chris Vanderveen. Can you hear me?
I sure can. How are you today?
Kaylee Clark teaches kindergarten in Aurora.
I miss it so much. I'm like emotional. I love you guys, and we're gonna get through this together.
We asked, you answered, with the kind of answers that remind us of the kind of humanity only a virus can expose.
And I stay home and we don't do what we normally do, and I miss the mountains.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. How much do you look forward to getting back to work?
Oh, I can't wait. You know, it'll bring tears to my eyes to be told, hey, you can go back in because I miss it.
Do you have a moment to chat?
Yeah, this is great. My grandpa that lives in Greeley, we normally do a bi-weekly sushi lunch date, and I haven't been able to see him for over a month now.
How are you holding up?
I'm holding up good. I'm used to being around a lot of people, and it's just a lot to adapt to.
There's something about taking something for granted and then discovering the value of that one thing you can no longer live without. Appreciation. If we share one thing in an unfamiliar time, it is the appreciation of the familiar, the customary, the once routine.
How you doing? How's everything going?
I'm doing okay. It's my 3 other ones that I'm missing the most, that are in the picture behind me.
How much do you miss them?
It's bad. You realize how much you need physical contact with people. It's really tough.
In its cruelty, in its aggression, the virus has failed to weaken our sense of who we are and what we need.
I miss her tremendously. I totally miss her. I haven't seen her since March 16th. She just lights up my life.
In an uncommon time, our commonality is now a community. And it is there where we just might find the right words, the closing words of a story we are still writing, still living, in a world where we are not as alone as it might seem.
Just hang on. We're going to get through this. We'll be back to a somewhat normal before you know it.
KOA News Time, 5 o'clock. It's Colorado's morning news on a busy Thursday morning.
Days blend.
Right now, 59 in Denver.
In a wild mixture of chaos and boredom.
507. It's dark out there. How's it going on the roads this early morning, John?
Leaving little room.
Still pretty light traffic in the metro area.
To consider the day that was.
We're really doing good.
Life comes at you sideways and 100 miles an hour sometimes.
We've got a lot of unhealed things coming up to the surface.
And it just continues to feel like a reality that we can't escape.
You know, everyone's living
love you, we'll see you later,
week to week, seeing how things go.
Right on.
Okay. It all started March 9th when I got the call that we were supposed to leave March 10th for a show in Ohio. Sorry, we have to cancel.
What started with a call has yet to end.
The arts is huge. I mean, because we're barely employed when things are normal. So,
no bitterness. There.
Luke and Stephanie lost gigs.
Oh, nothing's happening. Like, oh, your life is stopped.
This is my son, Jaden Tosin.
18-year-old Jaden. He lost the chance to walk on a stage and accept what was his.
But after COVID happened and we realized that certain senior opportunities were going to be taken away, I knew that I had to celebrate as much as I could to make up for what he was losing.
I love her fully, and like she would go to the end of the world to see me happy.
Okay, we're going to head over to get him to work.
His memory. We're celebrating his life today.
And at a service with no more than 50 allowed inside, Rosemary knows all too well the depths of her loss.
He'd been in and out of the hospital for the last 9 months.
Art, her high school sweetheart.
He was a great man. Always happy, always had a joke. Loved his kids and grandkids so deeply. So he'll be sorely missed.
And yet on this one day, like any one day,
this is Nora Jo Goodwin.
Life continues.
Her birth has been just a moment of calm and peace, and I think, a good reminder for us as parents to continue to nurture her to be a good force for good in the world.
From the birth of Joe and Mary Beth's daughter, to the birth of an idea from a restless member of the Colorado Symphony.
The symphony is not performing, obviously, right now.
Many Coloradans spent the day considering choreographed improvisation.
This is Jorge.
From Kelsey at the zoo.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would actually be in the zoo by myself.
To Frank and Connie on their patio.
Well, we do miss the social interaction, the meeting with people one-on-one. And
life continues. Even in the middle of a disease that has festered in this country for far longer than COVID-19.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
I think the very real reality that this is not new. When I saw the video of what happened to George Floyd, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And then the way that it happened, I think, just woke the world up of saying, that's not right. Like, I can't just sit home. I understand that it's dangerous, but I can't just allow this to be the reality that we continue to live through.
On a Thursday in June, in a country in constant motion, Quincy asked a field of hundreds to consider 9 minutes of silence. A million things can happen in no more than 24 hours, some profound, and some that'll stick with us long after these days are over.
Come here. Come here. Can you see her? Come up on the window. Come here. Come here.
Sarah still can't get close to her parents in their assisted living facility.
They're well cared for. We really appreciate the people at the facility, but the isolation is really taking its toll.
Things are not bad.
No, things are fine.
Okay. How can I get a haircut?
Well, we have to wait. We have to wait for the governor to tell us it's okay for you to get a haircut.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. God,
everything's good, Dad. Okay, love you.
Love you.
Okay, bye-bye. Harder, for some reason, for me with Dad. That he gets so confused.
As days blend, mixing and churning emotions many never knew, sometimes it makes sense.
One group suffering is everyone's responsibility.
To stop and reflect on one day that was.
I don't know what to do. I don't know how we're going to change it, but hopefully we can make some type of changes.
The highs, the lows, and everything that exists in between.
I feel like this is a huge opportunity, and I hope we take it.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, I'll get on the ground. Okay, do it. Get down. On your knees. Come on. On the ground.
Bring it up. Bring it up. Yep, he's on. He's cuffed.
Let him sit there a second.
Okay, everybody take a breather.
Take a breather.
You'll spot it too, should you watch enough of these.
Sir, we're not killing you.
You're not going to die. Stop.
A pattern.
Hey, you're okay. You're okay. You're going to be all
You're all right.
Officers seem surprised each time.
Hey! Hey! Roll over.
Anthony.
Hey. I don't think he's not doing anything, guys. Hey.
He didn't just die down there, did he? I don't think he did. Is he breathing?
They shouldn't be surprised, considering warnings like these written into many police department training manuals. A prone position can make it more difficult to breathe. At the earliest possible time, the arrestee should be placed on their side or a seated position. So why isn't that always happening?
You need to change this culture in police departments where they believe they can do no wrong.
Attorney Isaac Schwager has sued police departments for not recognizing the potential dangers of prone restraint. He says dozens of times when officers get sued, they've relied on the studies and testimony of one doctor in particular.
You call him a hired gun.
Well, he is a hired gun.
That quote, hired gun.
Your thoughts on that?
Is Dr. Gary Vilk of San Diego, California.
I am paid for my services, so I do get paid, so I'm hired. Not necessarily a hired gun in my mind.
You just said not necessarily. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, it's a term somebody's using. I get hired for my expertise and for giving opinions.
Dr. Vilk's studies have concluded prone restraint is not dangerous.
That answer is no. The position itself is physiologically neutral.
According to his own testimony, he's paid $1,000 an hour to provide such testimony. He insists his studies are sound, that the human body can take a lot of bodies on top of it, and that these cases represent a problem of optics, because most of these deaths are due to sudden cardiac arrest.
It looks a lot better, it's a lot less confusing to a jury if the person has a cardiac arrest with nobody on top of them than if there's several people holding them down at that point.
There's just one big problem. Sometimes those juries don't buy it.
Is it fair to say the jury did not believe Vilk's testimony?
I think that much is obvious.
Schwager last year secured a $4 million verdict on behalf of the family of Branch Roth, an amount that this year was whittled down to $2 million. Roth died while held prone underneath members of the Rohnert Park, California Police Department.
That's where I'm struggling here, is that this idea that the science is definitive, that your work is definitive, and yet you lose. Your side loses. And sometimes when they lose big.
So I don't consider myself I lost. I tried to educate a jury on the facts, the data, the materials out there, the research.
About that research.
Do you think sometimes this can be used as an excuse for behavior that did lead to somebody's death?
In my experience, yes, that is the case sometimes.
Dr. Stephen Bird says he believes he knows why people tend to die underneath officers.
Go ahead and dispatch ambulance as a protocol.
The University of Massachusetts professor of emergency medicine says the risk of asphyxiation is real, although not in the way you might think.
This is actually a really serious, severe, scary medical time where if we don't do the right thing, these patients can die.
He says, look at it this way. As the body struggles to get oxygen, it produces lactic acid. When acid levels rise, the pH level drops. Yes, it's weird that way. The body likes a pH level of 7.4. The more you work or struggle, the more acid you produce. Normally, the body regulates this with the help of the carbon dioxide you exhale. But let's say something limits that. Carbon dioxide builds, acid levels rise, pH drops, you struggle even more. The situation spirals until finally, with a pH level below 7, breathing slows and the system crashes.
Even a small degree of ventilatory impairment, decreased ability to ventilate in the setting of a severe metabolic acidosis, has severe consequences.
His solution sounds a lot like those police training manuals. As soon as a suspect is handcuffed, get off him.
It's my opinion that would save lives.
Which brings us back to that pattern we noticed when we watched all of those videos.
You didn't want to listen, did you?
You know, when you're being attacked or you think you're being attacked,
stop resisting.
Do you fight back?
Yeah, his arm's cuffed.
The day before George Floyd died in Minnesota,
Yeah, he's got a pulse.
Chad Burnett remained face down, handcuffed, and motionless for more than 3 minutes inside his Colorado Springs home.
Wouldn't that say something to you? Like, maybe there's something wrong here.
His close friend, Brett Lindstrom, noticed the pattern as well.
Chad, you gotta chill for us, okay, buddy? Go on.
He had gotten quiet, and yet You know, they're having this conversation while he's dying.
In the middle of a mental health crisis, Chad Burnett stopped breathing. His death, one of more than 100 we found, that seemed to catch officers off guard.
Hey, you with us? Come on, buddy. Chad.